there it is. I'm gonna have to check out. Um, so I reacted as quickly as I possibly could when I got the number popping up on my screen. So there you go. We'll see what the delay is on the video side of things. But with that said, or regardless, uh, stop. Just there. Okay. We're going to be addressing an issue. The topic is base axioms of the big lie and all lies. So let's define some terms. Not everybody knows what the word axiom means. You know, you hear axiom and you might think of axle or um, action or I don't know. I don't know what you think. AXIOM. Well, let's go here. Let's figure it out. AXIOM. Okay. A statement of self-evident truth. Okay. Now, colloquially speaking, one can have an axiom that is false, misidentified, something along those lines. Or a lie can be incorporated into an axiom, but it shouldn't be that way based on the definitions. Just keep that in mind. This is how the lie works. So I want to be extremely clear. Let's go here and we'll try it. We'll try it here. AXIOM. And we will say axiom, a noun, authority, an authoritative sentence, or that which is assumed from worthy, and to think worthy, to esteem, to ask, that which is asked, sought, or esteemed, a self evident truth, or a proposition whose truth is so evident at first sight. Check my audio. All right, we should be good. Should be good. I see a comment. Hello. Thank you for the blessings. Thank you very much. Okay, so an established principle in some art or science, a principle received without new proof, as things which are equal to the same thing are equal to one another. Okay. A self-evident truth or a proposition whose truth is so evident at first sight, excuse me, that no process of reasoning or demonstration can make it plainer, as the whole is greater than a part. That would be an axiom. The whole is greater than the part. So, to be clear, that is what an axiom is. Now, I am making the claim, and I'm going to do my best to exhaust this topic and make it clear what's going on with the big lie. Not necessarily what, I mean, people hear those words, big lie, and different things come to mind for different people. Different things come to mind for different people. And that's why I wanted to include the words all lies. Okay. All lies. And I really think I'll convince you. I think I'll convince everyone. I am convinced without any doubt that this is the basis, that these are the foundation. Now, I'll try and be as exhaustive as I can. I'll try to explain but it is my understanding that these are the basis for all lies. Okay. As they say, let's get into this. Let's get into this. I feel like I should play some music or something. I feel like I should have a little bit of background instrumentalization. Is that a word? Should I? My ears are ringing, so I feel like I need some noise. I'm a non-monetized channel. I get copyright violations on almost all my videos, so why not, right? Shadow Mind is here, so maybe that will redirect my plan on sound distraction. How are you doing this evening?
Good. I'm only here to distract and befuddle. That's it. That's my two
Fan
purposes. Can you hear me okay?
Fantastic. I can hear you perfectly clear.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I missed your introduction because I don't get notifications for you
Not
because
not too
Discord.
not too surprising. Um,
Yeah.
it's all good. Introduction. I am making the claim that what I have on the screen, sorry, I'm making the claim that what I have on the screen are the base
Um,
axioms of all lies,
of all lies.
of all
Okay.
lies. And I am going
Give
to
me.
provide a rational reason why as I work through them.
I'm down. I'm down. That sounds like an amazing thing.
Yeah. So what I have
What?
here, go ahead.
No, no. I'm just reading through, and I said, "Ooh."
Yeah. So what I have written down here are known as the seven Hermetic principles. Well, last week we talked about Hermes, Thoth, Hermes Trismegistus, which, by the way, Hermes has a lot of different names. If you look him up, uh, Hermes Trismegistus has other names. It's a deep rabbit hole. But anyway, the Hermetic principles, the seven Hermetic principles, are written right here on this document. And I'm going to go through these and I'm going to rationally explain why they are part truths. We'll discuss how, in what way they might be true, and I will expose how they are lies and how they are used as the basis for all other lies. And here we go. So in bold here, I say these are the satanic Luciferian teachings passed around and handed down by all of the esoteric mystery schools. If you're unfamiliar, I don't necessarily encourage all people to research this topic unless you're clothed with a special suit of armor, okay, known as the armor of God, okay. So I don't necessarily encourage everyone to dive into this topic full-heartedly, okay? Not advisable. But I'm going to try to keep it light, so to speak, and address these very difficult and dark topics, exposing them and shining light on them like I was doing last week, but in a more base and general way for all to see. And then they can take that knowledge and apply it to other happenings, other people, other teachings. We'll see. Lord willing, it will be edifying for all that, that learn these things. We'll see. We'll see, hopefully. Um, Again, handed down by all esoteric mystery schools, all of the esoteric mystery schools, which is a long list. A long list. You heard of the Rothschilds? Yeah, those guys. You heard of the Freemasons? Yeah, those guys. You heard of the yogis and the gurus? Yeah, those guys. You heard of the Hindus? Yeah, those guys. You heard of the Taoists? Yeah, those guys. You heard of the Rosicrucians? Yeah, those guys. Uh, all. You heard of the Kabbalists? Yeah, those guys. You heard of, I don't know, just the list is long. I don't even, I can't,
Gnostics.
I could, especially the Gnostics, yes. But
Yeah.
um, but at the same, I say especially, but really and truly, tomato, tomato. They're all
Yeah.
fractalizations of the exact same origin, which I'm pointing out right here. All right, these teachings
And
have,
this all stems from Mystery Babylon to begin with.
yes.
So
And this is when it was technically codified as a 10 commandments, esoteric 10 commandments of the workings of the universe for the satanic lie. Trying to provide context here, trying to help those that are especially unfamiliar with the topic so that it's not so confusing. These teachings have part truths but incorporate deception. We'll start with the first one. The all is mind. The universe is mental.
we
Now,
are all connected.
yeah. So that is an interpretation from that first teaching that we are all connected. And we hear this lingo a lot. We hear these talking points that we're all connected. And guess what? They do the, what is it called? The 100 monkeys. Do they call it experiment? Or is it's not experiment though? It's called the 100 monkeys something. You familiar with what I'm talking about?
Yeah, probably loosely. I'm sure it has multiple interpretations.
This has to do, so this is an example of how they justify and or seek to validate the belief. So the 100 monkeys thing is where there's 100 monkeys in one place all doing a thing, and then another monkey somewhere else learns to do the thing, even though that monkey never interacted with those monkeys.
Right. This is the telephone game, right? Well, and the
Eh,
other telephone game, the psychological one, where you have five people in a room, right? And they're given the instruction to ring the bell, right? All and then stand up, right? And then sit down and then ring the bell again. And then they bring someone who's never been in there before in there on the extra seat they have in there, and they see how long it takes for that person to conform. And then that person leaves, right? And everybody shifts down, and then they bring another person in, and then eventually what you have is the whole room is replaced with people that didn't know why they were doing it, but they end up doing it.
All right, 1985. It's called the 100th monkey effect.
Nice.
Effect. Um, Now, of course, there are people that have addressed debunking the idea and that sort of thing. Um, the idea that once a critical number of members copy a behavior or follow an idea, it will be taken on by all en masse automatically. And they make the claim that it happens even at a distance. Anyway, it's an example of it's an example that gets used to justify the claim that all is mind and the universe is mental, that we're all connected and that sort of thing. So there are probably many, many other examples. So before I move on, let's address, in what ways is this true? In what ways is this a deception? So, um, so to start, we have our physical realm, the physical, things we can touch, feel, experience with our senses. And then we have the spiritual realm. Now, the all is mind and the universe is mental is an illusion, not I, but a illusion to the spiritual realm. But it is almost for the sake of neglecting the physical realm as it points to the spiritual realm. To say that in other words, to claim that all is mind and the universe is mental is to divorce the physical from the spiritual and to claim that the spiritual is the all, which may or may not be a leap. I think it's a leap. Um, what are your thoughts? Am I being clear? Am I getting kind of
No, yeah, it
hard to
makes sense.
understand?
No, so it's designed entirely to separate the it's entirely designed to separate God from the equation as how we're all connected, right? Because we're
Yes,
connected through our creator, not through some esoteric mind manipulation that says, oh, well, it's, because atoms or whatever they decide the
the
base,
hive mind.
yeah, the hive or, yeah, hive mind is crazy. Doesn't make any sense. But yeah, just that we're interconnected because all of our lives touch one another. So when you butterfly this, then across the world, someone has an aneurysm. You know,
Yeah.
it's very,
So
very new agey.
so the way that it is a valid statement again is the fact that there is a spiritual realm. The ways that it is not valid is what Shadow Mind was saying, and that is, are you typing? It sounds like you're
No,
typing it
I was, I was
for.
literally just making noise.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I was moving around, picking stuff up off the floor. My
Oh,
bad.
gotcha. It sounded like a 400 words a minute typing rate. That's kind of what it sounded like on the mic.
Plastic, plastic bag.
That happens.
Yeah.
Um, the way that it is a lie is the fact that we exist because of the creator. We have life because of the creator. Now, what these seek to do, and you'll see this theme over and over again, is a divorce of the creator and an elevation of the creation. Now, remember that concept because that's what you see repeated over and over again. A removal or divorce or exclusion of the creator and a super supersession or replacement of the creator with an elevation of creation. So forget the one who made it all. Let's elevate the creation. That is what these things are teaching, and you see that by the statement of elevating the universe as the mental or thought or mind, and that we are part of it. It is us, and we are it. Hello,
Right.
Bearfurter.
That makes everyone in this estimation their own god because it separates the creator from the created.
Precisely. So the next statement here is as above, so below, as below, so above, as within, so without, as without, so within. Now, this is slightly repetitive as the first, but it seeks to clarify that everything is everything, which sounds like a true statement. Everything is everything. The problem with that is that uh, everything equals everything seems logically consistent until you address what everything actually is, and then you realize that that is inclusive of contradiction, which we'll get to. It addresses it and says it plainly, and this is a very important point to take away from these lies. The acceptance, not even acceptance isn't strong enough of a word. um, the foundation of contradiction, um, reconciled contradiction. reconciled contradiction.
Well, it's a false equivalency because the spiritual can't be the same as the physical. So if we look at the separation between the physical and the spiritual, they are not the same. So therefore, they can't be the same. So as above, so below doesn't work because that which we perceive as above would be that the heavens where the Creator resides, right? Where we are below on the physical realm, and they are
Yes.
not the same.
Yeah. Now, that's the truth of the matter, but this teaching is the acceptance of that contradiction on purpose. Okay. And that's an extremely important thing to understand. It's because there are special people and special groups that utilize this concept of the acceptance of contradiction to justify all of their philosophy and therefore justify all of their behavior. It's very important to understand. To accept contradiction as the basis for reality allows you, back to the first point, and the point that Shadow Mind made, allows you to place yourself as the arbiter. There is no good, there is no bad, there is no right, there is no wrong. Everything is everything. It sounds good to some people, but it's fallacious. It is
Well, I
illogical.
mean, if all is mind, then there can be no good and evil because then you would be both good and evil.
Yep. And again, it
Yeah.
does keep going, and we'll get to the specific violation of the law of non-contradiction. We'll get there. We'll get there. Nothing rests. Everything moves. Everything vibrates. Now, this sounds good. Now, again, here's a fun word for everybody to learn: specious, okay, and sophistry. So, this is sophistry. This is word magic. It sounds good on its face, but when you scrutinize it and you apply scripture as your foundation of truth and knowledge, these things fall apart. And I'll explain why
Well,
here.
even using science and scientific methods, they've never. Well, I'm gonna let you go first because this one's kind of deep. So.
Yeah, this one is because according to the scientists, who, by the way, are actually yet another fractalization of the mystery schools. How do you how do you know that? Listen to them, and they say these things. So they say on the atomic scale, the scale that we can't observe, nothing is still. Because in order for things to be still, it would have to be at a theoretical point of absolute zero. Absolute zero is a theory, and it's never been observed. It can't even be theoretically accomplished. Well, it can theoretically be accomplished. That's why it's a theory or an idea. It's not really appropriate to call it a theory, but conceptually, it can be conceived. The concept of stillness can be conceived, but according to them,
Well,
nothing is absent of motion. Everything is moving. Little electrons or whatever, quarks, whatever the little things are always moving according to them. There is
but that's
something.
that's a that's not even a best guess since the thing that we use or the things that scientists use to see the smallest particles is the electron microscope, and it
Mhm,
doesn't catch anything in full motion video. It is a still picture of whatever they're photographing with the
correct.
electrons.
Mhm.
So that can't even estimate that there's movement. So even at that level, they can't verify that those things were moved.
True. It is influenced, which points out just how much it's influenced by these principles as opposed to actual knowledge or science. But let me point something out. There's a very particular important person who claims to rest. Well, yeah, but that's metaphorically, is it? So God says that he rests. God says that
Right.
he is our rest. Yeah, but it's not talking about that. It's talking about movement and vibration. Yes, but this is esoteric. So it's not to be taken exoterically. It's meant to be taken in all forms, but especially metaphorically. So to ignore the metaphorical implications would be negligent and unwise. So I would point that, again, this is a divorcing and a neglect of the creator. It's interesting. Everything moves. Let me point this out. Everything moves. We'll go move on to that. There is something that doesn't move. God tells us a very particular thing that doesn't move. Let's look it up. Let's look it up.
Well, I mean,
Does
furthermore, to
not
God,
move.
God's sake, so He created, right? And when He was done creating, He rested. In other words, He ceased creating, right? So
Yes.
even from the most literal translation, He didn't do anything on that day, which just proves that He rested. So He ceased moving.
Yeah. 46 verse 7. Why is this? Can I? Where's BSB? BSB. Um, this is not the verse I'm looking for. Uh, I'm looking for the verse that says that the earth does not move specifically. Remember that verse by any chance?
Yeah, I believe the word is you're looking for is stationary.
Does not move. Yeah, but in the Bible.
I think my translation uses stationary. I don't remember. Um,
He said, okay, here we go. Psalm 104, verse 5. Here it is. All right. He set the earth on its foundations, never to be moved. Okay. Everything moves. Nope. No, no, not everything. But we have a narrative, a scientific narrative that teaches us everything is moving. Everything. Where does this teaching come from? It comes from the Hermetic principles handed down through the ages. There you go. Everything vibrates. And now you get into the
oh, everything has a frequency.
yes, now we get into the concept of frequency, vibrations. There's another fun word that people like to use. You're giving off a weird vibe. Vibe does come from vibration. Well, when did people start saying I'm vibing or you're giving off a weird vibe? Well, the sexual and drug revolution of the 60s and 70s. Hmm.
Yeah. So to be more precise, 1967,
What?
according to Etymology Online.
Oh, the word vibe, you looked it up?
Yep. Yeah, I looked it up.
Yeah.
So 1967 is when that slang was solidified, which makes sense because 66 to 68 was pretty much that was the implementation of all things
Um,
boomerific.
Woodstock took place the same year as the moon landing?
Mm-hmm. In 1969, that'd be a truth. That'd be truth.
That is almost, it's almost like that's not a coincidence. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll just
I
say
don't think
it's
anything that happened in the 60s was a coincidence. I think it was all one big drug induced mind psyop on the American public.
yeah. All right. So,
Yeah.
and again, the 1960s and 70s um, were a very powerful time regarding the teachings of Aleister Crowley, who, when did he die? Let's
Crowley?
let's look it up because
Yeah, I don't
I
remember.
know he was having um, Laura no, George Bush Senior's mother.
1947,
I see
December
that.
1.
Yeah, 1947. So supposedly George Bush Sr.'s mother attended Aleister Crowley's meetings. Um, so as far as timeline goes, I'm not sure what years that would have been, but um, but anyway, are you familiar with this story?
No, no, I paid very little attention to Aleister Crowley in any way, shape, or form.
Going to
I'm an esoteric noob, so
Oh, okay. Meetings. Um, blah blah blah. Um, hold on. George Bush mother. Uh, the Bush connection, mother to George. It wasn't George W. Bush's though. It was H. Um, blah blah blah.
oh, it would have been Bush Senior's mom, right?
Yeah. That's my point
Yeah,
here.
yeah, 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 yeah. So Barbara Bush's mother.
Maybe this is
Seances. That's what they were big
yeah.
into.
So
Seances back then.
Barbara Bush was her name. She was born Barbara Pierce. Um, and anyway, there is there is a it's possible that Aleister Crowley was actually the father of Senior or something like that. So, um, oh, you're posting science and what is
Yeah, it's
that?
just like I did a search for the esoteric. What is it? The for plurality and esoteric, and that's what came up is a addenda book 2 part 3 science and the secret doctrine contrasted.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So my point is I don't even know how I got on the tangent of Crowley and stuff, but vibrations, vibing. Oh yeah, I was thinking about the influence of the 60s. Somehow people became, even though it was 20 years after his death, people became extremely obsessed. And it had to have been through people like Manson and um, I don't know, maybe it was some of the other esoteric people. They pass this stuff down over and over and over again. They keep passing it down, passing it down. So anyway, there you go. Um, Vibrations, movement, no rest. This is a basic principle that is believed by these esoterics. You hear it, you see it in their teachings, and yet, according to the Word of God, the Creator has the prerogative to do whatever He pleases, as well as cause the earth to be motionless, stationary, founded, not moving. It's what the Bible says. Okay. And some people try to obscure that meaning to conform to the esoteric teachings, little do they know, and say things like, it doesn't mean not moving, it means not shaken like an earthquake. But then there's earthquakes. Well, the whole earth doesn't shake, except the earth, according to seismic activity, they say that the whole earth does shake and that you can register movement here to there. Well, then doesn't that involve? No, it's founded, it's not moving. Now, is that the same as not vibrating? No, not necessarily. There appears to be the ability of vibration. Things can cause it to vibrate. Obviously, you can go outside, you can pick a big rock up, and you can drop it on the ground, and you can feel the vibration of the rock in the ground. So things can cause it to vibrate, but it itself, all by itself, does not move. and does not vibrate. Everything has a vibration. You believe that because of this teaching.
Right.
Everything has a frequency. You believe that because of this teaching.
I mean, if that was the case, if everything had a vibration, right? So my living room has no fewer than, I would probably say, 15 speakers in it, right? And if there was independent vibrations,
Uh huh.
those speakers would pick up that vibration. Just the natural way in which speakers work is
Yes.
they
Amplifiers.
magnify vibration.
Yep.
Right. So they would pick up just any ambient vibration
Uh
from the
huh.
earth, and they don't. And it's measurable. You can put
Crank the
you can
power up.
take a audio meter. Yeah, you can take an audio meter next
Yep.
to it, and you get absolutely zero dBs out of there, even at the micro dB scale. So
I'm trying to put a fan in my window because I actually, it has gotten to the point where I'm actually warm. Um,
nice.
yeah.
Summer's here.
Yeah. After our blizzard 4 weeks ago, it's finally getting a little warm, and I'm going to just go ahead and turn my fan on, and hopefully this won't go poorly. I think I'll be okay. This side, fresh air in. Okay.
Well, I mean, the modern body of science doesn't know what lies at each level in the drill, right? That they've drilled down into the earth, because they haven't drilled in that far,
The
and they
eight
were wrong
eight
on
miles
every
thing.
section that they came to. Yeah, within that 8 miles, they were wrong on every sedimentary level all the
Mm-hmm.
way down.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they have no clue what's beyond 8 miles. And if we're this grandiose 14,700 mile circumference sphere, right? Then from north to south would be, I don't remember how to do radius, but I'm sure it's like pi r squared or something.
Yeah. 3959 is
Yeah.
the mile radius claim at the equator.
Right.
Um,
Right.
3,959 miles is the claim at
But
at
if
the
you yeah, if you drilled if yeah, if you
radius
drilled straight
or
down, it'd be about the
equator
same, right? Yeah.
to the center. Yeah.
Be, yeah, so it'd be like 4,000 miles, roughly 4,000 miles to the center, not to confuse me and everyone else that doesn't do math.
Yeah. I just
And
happen
they've
to have
got
this
8 miles.
conversation like every day, so I have the numbers memorized.
Nice.
It
Nice.
just
I just know it's a long ways, and it's a long ways further than what they've gotten. So,
correct. Absolutely. Um, all right. Let's move on. The next claim or teaching is everything is dual. Everything has poles. Interesting. Everything has its pair of opposites. Like and unlike are the same. Here's where it gets here's where it gets very important to pay attention about how the lie works. Okay? Like and unlike are the same. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. Extremes meet. All truths are but have truths, and all paradoxes may be reconciled. Now, this is one of the most insidious, pervasive beliefs that influences society and is becoming more and more evident to the mainstream than ever before. What are your thoughts so far on this claim?
well, yeah, this is pretty simple. Is it that since we go with the all is mind, the universe is mental. This just further justifies that you're also, not only are you also your own God, you're also your own devil, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're one and the same, and they live and reside within your conscious mind, right? Or in the simulation, or whatever everybody's going to call it these days.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so from that standpoint, the shadow is the same as the light, right? Because they're
Yes.
comprised of the same things, right?
Yes.
Which is
That
why especially considering things like the moon. Well, it's the umbra or the penumbra because it's the same, right? That's why you have these things because you can call them the same thing under this philosophy, and everyone that's stooped in it will understand. And will
The
comply.
moon is merely a
The moon,
reflection of the sun, and therefore they're really the same thing.
right?
Okay, according to these teachings, again, everything is everything. And guess what else? It's not just everything is everything, it is also nothing is everything, and everything is nothing. See, with these teachings, they accomplish a consistency, a coherency with the narrative of the Big Bang accomplishes a coherency that otherwise would be incoherent and illogical. It becomes coherent and logical, but not actually logical. Because of these axioms, it now becomes coherent. That's really important to understand because the story is nothing exploded and everything. Nothing is everything, and therefore anything is everything, and everything is anything. And nothing is
Well,
everything, and nothing is also anything, and anything is nothing, and it's all reconcilable. Go ahead.
it also overrides all the old theories that says that you can't create or destroy matter, right?
Yeah, I mean, if this is
So,
a known as a natural law, nothing can be no thing can be created or destroyed, only converted is the word,
yeah,
right?
it's converted to another form of energy.
Yeah,
I believe is the and that isn't even that doesn't actually explain anything because it has nothing to do with things that have mass. I mean, what we consider mass, right?
sure. The
And all these
issue with
other things because that goes back to everything is vibrating, right? So you have to believe
yeah,
everything is vibrating. That way, everything that's vibrating creates everything that's solid, right?
the issue with that is that quote unquote natural law of nothing can be created or destroyed, only converted. And with the whole energy thing, it conflates matter and energy as one and the same somehow, some way. Now, what this
Right.
leads to is a belief that out of enough, if we apply the right recipe to energy, then we can create matter. Okay. Now, some people are teaching, maybe you've never heard these sorts of things, but I hear these sorts of things. Some people are teaching based on the principles of the concept of ether, AETHER, that there is a background of reality, the substrate and or medium which all content exists within, like the canvas, the three-dimensional canvas of reality is this ether, right? And ether also is associated with energy. And if we do the right something, we can materialize substance or matter from the pre existent canvas of reality known as the ether. They are teaching these things. Where did they get these concepts from? None other than the Hermetic principles. And what does that mean? Does that mean that they might be stumbling onto something that has some truth to it?
Well, I think it's more that they're trying to find truth in anything, so they'll believe anything. And the more profound it sounds, regardless of the level of idiocy or just foolishness, the more I think they're inclined to believe it because it becomes something that's unexplainable. So therefore, they can call it otherworldly,
Yeah.
and then they don't have to explain it because it becomes fancy magic or science.
Another word to keep in mind on this topic, alchemy. Okay? Alchemy is a teaching that comes from this, that is the belief that you can convert one thing into another thing. It is the basic goal of certain groups to convert one base material, either material or spiritual, okay, which means both in the real working world and or the philosophical world or spiritual world. So what I mean by this when I'm saying this is to point out that they are pursuing a conversion from dark to light. That is an alchemical process from lead
and
to gold.
and physical to immaterial, and that you see that
Yes.
every day in our physical system, where they're converting your labor or your future labor into a currency.
Yeah. Yeah. So this number 4 is a really heavy duty one. Um, I mean, it's got a lot in it, but particularly this ending statement, all paradoxes may be reconciled. This is where the concept of everything is relative, the theory of relativity, post modernism, which doesn't really, when you say the words after modernism, doesn't really tell you anything. But if you look into what postmodernism is, it is the rejection. Postmodernism, to be summed up in the best way I know how, is the rejection of objectivity. It is the rejection of absolute truth. And what does that mean? Well, it means that it is the acceptance of the Hermetic principles by default, de facto. And I just want everybody to be aware, there it is. I'll do my best to, after I go through all of this, to point out with as much clarity as I can how this is connected to your day-to-day life. What are the implications of what I'm saying? I will get to that point at the end, Lord willing. Um, we'll move on. We'll move on. Everything flows out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The pendulum swing manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. This is more of the same as before, just another way of saying the same thing. Everything is everything. There is no left or right. Now, the fact of the matter is, this exposes how they operate. What do I mean by that? We look at things like left right paradigms, conservative liberal paradigms, and we recognize when we understand these things, you look at these teachings, and you look at what the left actually stands for and what the right actually stands for, and you start to see a satanic and Luciferian paradigm that actually represent the same thing. They're not the same exactly, but they kind of are. So, in that way, this is true. But it's only true because it's only true when you take into consideration who is behind or above or whatever these systems, the left right paradigm. Who is behind that? Who is the originator of that? Who are the ones helping that continue on? They are the ones who adhere to these principles and they make it true. It's not that it's inherently true. Okay. This fan, which I you can see on the camera, it blurs out a little bit of the time. Sometimes it doesn't. But whatever the case, this fan, the blades are spinning in a direction, only one direction. they're not spinning in both directions simultaneously. You might be thinking all of a sudden of Schrodinger's cat, and that is the
They're
fact.
both spinning and not spinning.
That is the fact that I'm pointing out that there are predominant new sciences. They're not science, but they're being called science that are employing these teachings, such as quantum physics and everything related to quantum physics. They are direct, not indirect, even. It is directly applying these teachings. And some will be like, yeah, but you can scientifically validate using the double slit experiment. Okay. And this takes us to number 6. So I'll just go ahead and go there. This is one of the ones that I actually have the most difficult time breaking this. So maybe you'll be able to help me, Shadow Mine. Every
Mm.
cause has its effect. Okay. This correlates with the law of causality. And I if you can help me expose any aspect of a lie within this specific principle. So I'll read the whole thing and then I'll explain how it relates to the double slit experiment. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for law not recognized. There are many planes of causation, but nothing escapes the law. Back to the beginning, every cause has its effect, and every effect has its cause. So,
This is this is a really tough one because it's the basis on which on most truth claims, right? Because it's a truth
correct,
claim.
correct.
You can't have an effect without a cause, and the truth claim is if you have an effect, it has to have a cause, right?
Which I'd like to point out. There's something known as the Coriolis effect. There is something known as the effect of gravity. There is something known as the double slit experiment that is actually the effect of something. Let me point this out. It is the understanding that light behaves in such a way to be observed as a both a wave and a particle. And using this double slit experiment, they say in this way it will act as a wave, and in this way it will act as a particle. A wave, however, is an effect. And this is where and how it's not that the statement, this number 6, it's I don't think that it's that this one is an overt lie. It's more so associated with sophistry in that the way that people will call the effect the cause and
Absolutely.
getting the two mixed up and confused. So let me point out waves are an effect. This is a statement that I am just making. It's an assertion. Why would I make the assertion that waves are an effect? Well,
Because it's observable.
because it's observable, because we do a thing and then there's a wave. To call the wave a cause, I can't go there. Oh, you just don't understand. You just don't understand. You're just not smart enough. No, the 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 wave it doesn't I can't go there. Maybe I'm not smart enough. What do you think, Shadow Man? Am I not smart enough to understand how a wave could be a cause?
Well,
Am I just not smart
I
enough?
think you're I think you're on I think you're on point on that, but even a particle isn't a cause. So in both instances, the sun particle or the light particle and the light wave can't be the same thing because neither one is a cause of anything.
Neither one. It's just the effect. So basically, what you're meaning to say by that is the effect of a particle is the fact that it was created.
No, no, no. A particle in itself has no cause nor effect. It just is, right? Like if like take for instance a breadcrumb on the ground. It has no effect. It is just a breadcrumb on the ground. Because the effect is what put the breadcrumb on the ground, right? Or the cause, right? The end result is it's sitting on the ground. So the cause is I take a bite out of my sandwich, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the effect is the particle of bread hits the ground. But once
Mm-hmm.
it's on the ground, it just is. And even when it's falling, it still is. Because
Okay.
the particle doesn't create any movement on its own,
But then somebody would
right?
ask, what caused the bread particle to be? which
Right.
which in that question it creates the placement of effect. Bread under the category, or breadcrumb becomes a part of the category of effect when you ask the question, what caused this breadcrumb to exist? And then you go through the explanation, well, flour and water and yeast and maybe some salt and sugar possibly, or some other ingredients made
But
it.
you're reading into what's below the particle. They're just saying that the particle is the cause of the movement through the medium that would require a wave, right? So since we know that light can't carry itself as a particle, and,
Yeah, and
and it can't carry itself as a wave.
I would argue that in the case of a wave, the cause is movement, not the existence
Correct.
of the particle, but the cause of wave is movement. Now, the cause of particle, if I had to go there, I would just simply say the cause of a thing being is that it was made to be.
Right. It was created.
So, so back to exposing how this is a lie. It is my assertion that based on the previous assertions and or axioms that the Hermetic principles are putting forth, if everything is everything and paradoxes are reconciled, then it stands to reason that cause and effect are an Ouroboros of nonsense. And I mean that in the most literal possible way, not nonsense in a pejorative way, but nonsense in a literal way. And let me explain. You have the concept of gravity. Why do you have mass? Because of gravity. Why do you have gravity? Because of mass. An Ouroboros of nonsense.
The
And then
cause becomes the effect.
and this is what the word gravity absolutely is. In it is the accomplishment of number 6 and number 4 being combined, meaning the cause is the effect and the effect is the cause. If you try to explain gravity in the way that they teach, it will absolutely be a combination of Hermetic principles number 4 and 6. And that
One,
is,
it breaks
go ahead.
it it breaks the basic definition rule in that a definition cannot a definition of a word cannot include the word itself.
Yeah, what is a can? Well, a can is a can.
Right.
Yeah, but what is a can? So we and you
it's, a,
and
it's,
you
a, it's a cylindrical aluminum device used for holding liquid. What's wrong
you
with you?
you ask the esoteric apostles, such as somebody like Neil deGrasse Tyson, and I very much I'm 100% on board with my lingo these days. I'm very much wanting to use targeted inflammatory language. When we talk about
Nice.
the alleged Book of Enoch, I am going to call it the Book of Hermes. When we talk about Neil deGrasse Tyson, I will call him an apostle of Satan or an apostle of the mystery schools of Babylon, whatever flows best at the moment. But I want to call a spade, basically, is what I'm saying, and I encourage you to do the same. But anyway, um, absolutely, I agree with the law of causality. I have no questions there whatsoever. But the point that I think is important is how these are not mutually exclusive principles. They're mutually inclusive principles because of number four. They have to be mutually inclusive. You can't separate them because it literally says all paradoxes may be reconciled. And again, that takes us back to the concept of everything is relative. If everything is relative, who's the arbiter of what's good and what's bad? Who's the arbiter of all things? You are.
Right.
And the ones who do it best get a special title. They get called the Ascended Masters. All right, moving on. The last
Or
one here.
guru,
Or yeah. Yogi, guru. There's all
yogi,
sorts
guru.
of special titles. All right, and this one will bring us right to the 21st century, right to the Obama era accomplishments. G- Gender is in everything. Everything has its masculine and feminine principles. Gender manifests on all planes. How about
Yeah.
that? Planes of reality. Okay, so we are going to look up REBIS. Okay, and my apologies to people's eyeballs, to their spirits, to their hearts, to your mind. There are disgusting images associated with this concept. Be forewarned. Avert your eyes, discontinue the stream if necessary. But here we go. So I'm gonna click on this and try to make this as large as I can. It's kind of difficult. Here, I'll open up a new tab. This is the rebus, okay? And what we see here in these symbolic things, we have astrological symbols, we have the male and the female, and we have other symbolism, such as standing on the dragon. This is interesting, okay? This is one representation of the rebus. Here is an ancient representation of the rebus, an older art that's been colorized. I believe it was originally carved into metal or wood. You have a sphere, you have wings, you have the as above, so below triangle, and then some numerology stuff. You have the standing on the dragon, you have the male and the female, you have the sun and the moon, and then you have this special star associated with the symbol of Saturn, which also obviously represents Lucifer for those who know. And then you have other esoteric symbolism with other stars. Who are these other stars? I wonder. Anyway, and then you've got the male and female symbols on one side, but then you have other alchemical symbols on the other side. Interesting. And then, of course, you have the compass and the square. Okay, this is a so that's an older version, and here is a modern. That so just to point out, this isn't a matter of history. Hi, level up. Welcome. This isn't a matter of history. This is a matter of people are into this right now. This artist, Mitos Levendos, or Phoenix Entertainment SPA, Todos los Derechos Reservados, whatever. Christian AC is the artist. Christian AC. A Christian. Christian AC. Some Latino person, right? You have the muscular masculine with the feminine, the soft feminine, combined into one. Wait a minute. Who does that? Her, me, Aphrodite, Hermes and Aphrodites, Hermaphrodite. Okay, you have this combination of Hermes and Aphrodite as the ultimate combination to accomplish the Hermetic principles. You have obviously in this artistic rendition the compass and the square. You have the as above, so below, also known as the Star of David. That is, anyone who actually knows anything knows that that has nothing to do with the David of the Bible. Okay. You have other esoteric symbolism. You have the word rebus um, carved into the arm. Um, you know, what do they call that? I should know this with my psychology degree and everything. Mutilation. It's something mutilation, and I can't remember there's a term, something mutilation. You remember the term?
No, no, I skipped psych and went straight onto the maintenance side of the house. I had business math. It was easier.
Yeah, I got you.
I'm inherently lazy when it comes to school.
Anyway, physical um, destruct.
It's yeah, it's part of that self mutilation, which is
Thank you. That's the word. That's the word.
yeah.
Self mutilation. All right. So what you have here is the self mutilation with esoteric symbols, including the rebus name on one arm, blood. Okay, man associated with blood, and then the feminine associated with the serpent, and green dripping from. So this is an artistic rendition of the rebus concept with other Masonic and other symbolism. You've got the male. The if you look here, you'll see the two testes and the phallus, and then if you look here, you'll see the Baphomet and or uterus. There's a lot going on here, and you have to wonder there's even the chakra thing on the spinal column. No big surprise there. I mean, this artist went to great detail, and then of course they have the globe as the base, along with the dragon, who is the Ephesians 6:12. It's 6:12, or am I getting my verses mixed up? I looked up so many Bible verses today. I get my numbers mixed up sometimes. Is it 12? Yeah, it's 6:12. Good, good, good. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this world's darkness, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Okay, good, good. Glad we can all understand that. Other representations demonstrate dragons, so I'll or phoenixes maybe. Um, This is another artist rendition of the rebus that goes animal as opposed to human, blue and red, cold and hot. Again, demonstrating the esoteric principles of the Hermetic teachings that I just addressed. Um,
Well, you also have the what do they call it? The protractor, the right angle,
yeah,
and then you also have the thing that makes circles. Is it called a protractor?
the compass. No, I actually think it's called the compass. The compass and the square are
The
the
compass in the square. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So then,
I need to go back to school.
no, I get these terms, or I have gotten these terms mixed up. All right, more representations. This one is quite old. You got the word matrix in here on the feminine side because that refers to the womb of the woman. Draconis is on here for some reason. Um, anyway, you've got a lot of Greek words on here, and then you have this modern um, interpretation that's all flowery and happy looking, super trans. And then you have this Middle Ages representation. You have one that has this weird creature that's coiled up, and then this one with the snakes. Um, what does this have to do with anything? Gospel bearer? What does this have to do with anything at all? Why are you showing us the rebus? I'm showing you the artistic representations of the Hermetic principles. And the rebus is one of the things that represents the Hermetic principles that I was discussing. Okay? So there's that. Now, what I want to do is I want to help anyone and everyone that watches this understand how this correlates to our day to day life. Okay? So, on that note, I am going to I'm going to pull up a video. I don't do this very often. I can't even remember the last time I even did this, but I know you're in the Discord, but are you also watching the stream? No, yes, no?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I'll do is when you start the video, I'll just mute my side and listen to the video.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
That way,
So
there's no cross feed.
Flynn, here, I'll look it up this way. This will be General Flynn. I'm gonna help connect the dots for everybody. And before I play the video, I am going to
And on
give some context because context is important. And I was at a Bible prayer meeting. We'll just, whoops, I didn't mean to go all full screen yet. I just want to go to theater mode. There we go. All right, here we go. Let me explain the context of this. There's a man named Michael Flynn. Okay. He was giving a speech in September of 2021, not too many, 9 months ago at this point? A little less than 9 months ago. Giving a speech to a group of what are normally called conservatives. Okay. Mike Flynn, on almost verbatim, quotes a woman named Elizabeth Clare Prophet. Now, who is that lady? Well, in the mid 1980s, Elizabeth Clare Prophet, for 45 minutes, sought to channel what she called the Archangel Michael. Okay. For 45 minutes in this speech, which you can look up Elizabeth Clare Prophet, I do not recommend it, but it's available for those of you that like to do fact checking, that sort of thing. You can look up her speech or her talks, okay, and you can find this occasion where she mumbles and does her manic phase channeling activity for 45 minutes and then allegedly channels the Archangel Michael. Now, whether or not she's actually channeling a demon or anything else, it is 100% irrefutable that General Mike Flynn is quoting her. And here's the proof. I'm not even going to call it evidence. I'm going to play it now for anybody and everybody. Here you go. I'll go full screen.
September 17th of 2021, General Flynn spoke at the Opening the Heavens conference in Omaha, Nebraska. The theme of the conference was, "It is time to get ready for the revolution of light." Here is the message he had to convey.
We are your instrument of those sevenfold rays and all your archangels. All of them.
And I am the instrument of those sevenfold rays and archangels, and I will not retreat. I will take my stand.
We will not retreat. We will stand our ground.
I will not fear to speak.
We will not fear to speak.
And I will be the instrument of God's will, whatever it is.
We will be the instrument of your will. Whatever it is.
In the name of Archangel Michael and his legions, I am freeborn, and I shall remain freeborn.
In your name. And the name of your legions. We are freeborn. Freeborn.
And I shall not be enslaved by any foe within or without.
And we shall not be enslaved by any foe. Within or without. So help me God. God bless you. God bless America. Thank you very much.
All righty then. How is this relevant? What's happening over here?
Appointed in this country.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Are we good? I think we're good. How is this relevant? I'm going to close that tab just in case crazy things happen. Am I back? Is everything okay? Okay.
Yeah, there's about a 30-second delay.
Gotcha. How is this relevant to our day-to-day life? I'm telling you it is. I'm asserting that it absolutely is relevant. I gave you an example of Mike Flynn, conservative speaker, a voice of the Republicans and the conservative movement. Okay. There's a lot to this. I'm just giving you a snippet. Okay. The fact of the matter is, there is no. Okay. Let me back up. There is an illusion that exists of good and evil in this world, and a battle between good and evil. In reality, there is a battle, a pretend battle between darkness and light. The unfortunate thing is that the light is not the true light, but is a false light, a Luciferian light, as in from the liar. The darkness is also from the liar. It is two sides of the same coin. The one discussed, or the ones, so it's not just one, obviously. Okay, this is clear. This is what's being referred to in Ephesians 6:12. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, plural, against the authorities, plural, against the powers of the world's darkness, plural, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms, plural, 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 plural. It's not singular. It's important to understand. And the fact of the matter is, there are a lot of people in this world under the impression that all they have to do is stamp out the darkness and the light will prevail. Little do they understand at this point in time that the light they think is going to prevail is actually the Luciferian light of the second beast, the one that looks like a lamb but speaks like a dragon. Thoughts, comments?
No, I mean, it makes perfect sense. You still have people running around with dual masks on.
Yeah.
So they're seeking health, right? From a false cure, and it's the exact same thing over and over again.
Okay.
Right? And despite everyone else around them being maskless, they still hold fast to their doctrines of, well, I'm just protecting me from you.
Yeah, that's actually the subconscious belief, but then that's the you could almost call that the esoteric belief that they're protecting themselves, although it's a false protection of fakeness, just like the false light. But exoterically, it is public knowledge that you're not protecting yourself, you're protecting others. That's the
Right.
exoteric outside knowledge. But in reality, it's two sides of the same coin from the liar.
But both are true. Remember rule 1. Also, all paradoxes can be resolved.
All paradoxes
Therefore,
may be reconciled.
right?
Yeah, it's
So,
true for
regardless
them.
of why they're doing it, they're complying with the right or the correct or the light, right? And those who don't comply are the darkness.
Yes, but even so, those that reject, such as myself, for instance, potentially, Lord willing. Those that reject the dark and the light, the satanic and the Luciferian paradigms outright, my allegiance is with the Creator, my obedience is with the Creator. They don't like that. They don't like that.
No, but they don't like it, but in my experience, right? Regardless of whether they like it or not, they're powerless against it.
Correct. They also will gaslight. Gaslighting is typically the method of handling it. And why would you say that? What's your evidence for that? Look up what General Flynn's rebuttal is to the claim that he was doing a satanic prayer because of what he did. Gaslighting was the technique that he used with a profound red herring. So, hey, Mr. Mike Flynn, you quoted a satanic channeling event from 40 years ago. What say you? Oh, the seven rays is related to. He knew what they were talking about. He chose a element of the speech, said, oh, the seven rays comes from this Catholic origin, and I'm a Catholic. Gaslighting, red herring.
Well, he might be telling the truth though, because the Catholics are very esoteric in their practices.
They are, but here's the point. I consider all these sorts of things. Let's say somebody gave him this. Who's responsible? Who's if you're about to lead a group of people in a group prayer, which is what was happening, they were repeating the word, repeat after me, repeat after me. That's what he was doing. Whose responsibility is it ultimately for the specific words that everybody is repeating? Now, I would argue that each and every person in that room has a responsibility as to what they're going to say, whether or not they're going to participate or not. So I'm not neglecting that. But what my point is that the answer to that question is it is his responsibility, even if somebody gave him that speech, it's still his responsibility because he's the one that's leading it. So I find no rational reason to absolve him of responsibility or to reserve any benefit of the doubt whatsoever. And I believe he is 100% implicated as a Luciferian as a result of those actions on that day. That is
Well, even if he's just a vessel for whoever's behind the scenes feeding him the lines,
mhm.
he still isn't Catholic enough to recognize a clearly Luciferian chant.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
also, like, I'm not absolving him of any responsibility, but I'm just saying the argument could be made that he's just an empty vessel of the enemy, which they do exist, and they're in there biblically.
There are disciples of Satan, apostles and disciples of Satan, and there are ignorant pawns of Satan. There are both. I agree. I don't think that everybody is a disciple or apostle. I do understand the ability for people to be ignorant pawns.
Well, and I think it holds true with the Gospels, because otherwise Jesus wouldn't have gone through healing the people of their possessions, right? And in Acts, the apostles would have never healed the people that were possessed by devils, right?
For
So
sure.
there has to be proof that people can be possessed and not be a willing participant.
Not a willing participant and redeemable. It seems as though there is evidence of, biblically, evidence of non-redeemability in regards to this sort of thing like pearls before swine and wiping the dust off your feet with a rejected message.
Right.
The point there is
I would call it, yeah. I
is
would
not
definitely call those disciples or apostles of the
yeah,
devil.
not necessarily that we are the ones to preemptively judge who those are, but acknowledge who they are once they present themselves as that. And again, you're right. I'm not certain which of those two General Flynn is. It's just absolutely irrefutable that he's one of the two, a pawn or a disciple.
Okay. I
Um,
would say you don't get to the rank of general, right? At least not the Allied commander of
mhm,
U.S. and coalition forces without compromises to your faith.
yeah,
Because the powerful, especially the powerful warriors, right, or the powerful disruptors of the peace, don't have a godly objective.
yeah,
Doesn't mean they can't be used by God as a punishment for
sure,
sin, right?
yeah.
But they generally aren't the cleanest of individuals.
Okay, so if you don't mind and if you're able, help me out on this concept of how is this relevant to your day-to-day life, because I know that there's a lot of people out there that poo-poo this message and act like they don't need to be aware of the relevance of the mystery school teachings. They don't need to be aware. I was in a different Discord server talking about this subject and its applications to the education system, for instance, because I believe that this is absolutely incorporated and has infected the education system. But that's not it. I believe that if you spent enough time, mental energy and otherwise, you could probably expose this foundation. I think it's probably tainted everything. Everything, even
So
even like seminary, even like everything. Go ahead.
so let's say for instance I am going through a resume and job hiring course, right? To prepare me for getting a job outside of federal service. And in this course, they're explaining how the selection and interview process has changed, right? And the manner in which it's changed. And where it used to be, you could physically go in and talk to someone, right? And hand them your resume. And you could potentially have a conversation with that person. And based on the first impression, you might get a second job interview. And that it's changed to you have to take all of the things you've ever done
Hmm.
and turn them into a story,
Hmm.
right, on your resume so that someone can read the story and have an emotional reaction to the story in a favorable manner
Hmm.
so that you can get an interview.
Hmm.
So the inversion is where you used to have to show credibility through your truthfulness and honestness in person with someone who was a potential employer. You now have to put lies on paper so that when you show up, you can lie to them so that you can get the job. And this is the industry standard.
Okay. You took that in a place I probably would have never taken it.
Well, and the reason I take it there is it's the inversion, right? Because it used to be, because both still work. Believe it or not, I can still walk into a business, have a conversation with someone who's not under that spell, right?
hmm.
And still get a job interview and still get a job.
Yeah.
But the rest of the online world, right, where most of this other stuff happens, is the opposite inversion. So you get both sides of the coin, where you have to be in the correct medium for each of the inversions to work.
Yeah.
I don't know if I made any sense on that or not.
Yeah, sure. I'm thinking specifically about the people that are happy, and I'm reducing my volume level because I was notified by my wife that my volume level was way too loud.
You're
Um,
excited. I get it.
it's 8:40. It might not look like it out the window, but the sun is going to be up for another 2 hours here. And in 30 days, the sun will be up for another 3 hours at this point in time. So
Wow.
anyway,
Getting all that northern exposure.
exactly. All right. I'm thinking about the people that are duped and or romanced by everything from Q to Trump to 4chan to conservatives, Republicans, uh, the news agencies that they like to listen to. Is it Charlie Kirk? Is it Right Side Broadcasting News? Is it Newsmax? Is it what is OWN? One World News? Some weird name like that.
Yeah, that's one world news, OWN. Yeah.
Okay, why did they think that that
And
would be
you get to add RT into the mix now as well.
RT Broadcasting? Yes, thank you. Okay, so the people that are trusting and looking up to those entities as the better they recognize the potential for them to not be all the way good. They're like, yeah, I'm going to listen, but I'm definitely going to still be on the lookout, right? I'm not going to completely turn off my discernment switch in my brain. So they're not necessarily I'm thinking of the specific people that aren't they're not turning off their discernment switch, but they still think that those entities are at least giving them something of value and aren't part of the Luciferian side of the duality. And it is my assertion that you have the CNNs and even the Foxes in a lot of ways that are on the satanic side. And then you have these alternative news agencies. Throw in Awaken with JP into the mix. Oh, but I like him. Throw in people like him. Throw in Brandon Tatum. Throw in Anthony Brian Logan. Uh, who's the Salt Nation guy? Salty Cracker or whatever.
Yeah, salty cracker, yeah.
Throw in those people. Oh my gosh, you can't implicate everybody. Don't. I hope he doesn't say Jim Bob. I'm not saying Jim Bob. I'm not saying Jim Bob. Not necessarily.
Jim Bob is fine. He does have some weird bits.
I think Jim Bob's fine.
Yeah.
But a lot of these people that are on the front, right? On the front of the message, the Hodge twins and so on. Now, mind you, I'm not implicating these people or asserting that they are all willful or actual disciples or apostles of Luciferian doctrine. I am suggesting the opportunity or possibility that they are pawns of the Luciferian paradigm. Why would I assert such a thing? Because of how they are merely echoing, parroting the mainstream talking points, which is a duality. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So they may be giving a different perspective, allegedly, but what is the ultimate end? This whole narrative, let me bring to a current event that keeps on getting brought up. Baby food. What do they call it? Baby
Oh
formula.
yeah.
Baby formula.
Yeah, formula.
Okay, baby formula.
It's not even food because the word food would have a connotation for nutrition.
Yeah.
It is called formula because it is a chemical concoction,
Yes.
which is what a formula is.
All right. So back to the topic or concept of red herrings. Okay. Formula, formula, formula. What about what babies actually need? What about what babies have always had for 59 plus 100 years of our reality? They've always had the source of food from the mother, not from a laboratory. It just so turns out that I was looking into this a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't know that a mere 200 years ago they had dormitories paid. Okay, they had wet nurse dormitories where women would reside on call. They would live here in a building. They would build a building and they would invite women, contract them. They could live there. They would be paid. Their housing was paid, their food was paid, and they got wages to be on call for when the time came that their services would be needed. Wet nurse dormitories were a thing. I mean, this was a thing. It was a business. It was a business. And this, thinking about this to me, is that concept is so amazing and foreign. But my point is formula, 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 formula. There's no formula, and whether or not it's the conservatives, they're pointing to the fact that there's formula at the border, and Biden gave formula over here. They're still talking about formula, and none of them are saying, guys, the women need to not be at work. They need, because that's the reason they need formula, is because they're apart, they're separated from their babies, right? And of
Yeah,
course,
but you're failing to miss
go
the
ahead.
obvious is that I have to have my Cadillac Escalade and my 4-bedroom house and my $250,000 mortgage, right? If I
Well,
don't have
it's all linked.
formula,
It's all
then I
linked.
can't have those things.
Yes,
Right.
because I can't have those things if I'm at home doing what I'm supposed to be doing by breastfeeding. My point is, once upon a time, there was even a solution. There was even a solution to that. It was called wet nurses, and wet nurses go back to biblical days. Okay, it was a thing. It's always been a thing. Usually, as far as I understand it, not for pragmatic reasons, but because of, I think, I don't know that for a fact, but in the biblical era, I understand it to be that sometimes things just didn't work, and a wet nurse was the backup plan. Correct me
Right.
if I'm wrong if you're aware otherwise.
No, no, I'm not. The only other wet nurses that I was aware of was during the Victorian age, where women of high stature were just too good to breastfeed.
Yeah, they're
It
they're
was
the,
below their station.
but it didn't always have. It wasn't a negative thing. It became a negative thing during the Victorian era,
Right.
which, by the way, is linked with the Renaissance, which, by the way, is linked back to the primary topic of this evening, which is the esoteric teachings, which literally were used as a catalyst to explode the Renaissance. In If you look into the Renaissance, this is what you'll read. If you look into the philosophical underpinnings of the Renaissance, this is what you will read. The rejection of the law of non contradiction. That is what you will see. That is what hallmarks and underpins the Renaissance. That is what continues to carry out. And before the Renaissance, it could be argued that the law of non contradiction was a predominantly held belief. But around the 16th century, that's where that's where everything started to really change. That's where everything started to shift. And to be, I guess I should say, I don't blame people that I was referring to earlier, the people that are watching Right Side Broadcasting and, oh, did you say RT? Russian. I forgot that
Yeah.
RT was the Russian Today or whatever. But you're right.
Yeah, Russia Today.
RT really should be included on the Luciferian paradigm. Um, the
Well,
illusion.
and every news story, left or right, the main point of contention is never the main point of contention, right? So let's talk about the Supreme or the Supreme Court and
Ro-
their ruling as far as the A word goes.
yeah, yeah,
None of them are arguing for the abolition of it. They're just
correct.
arguing that the state should have the right
Yes.
to regulate it.
None of them are talking about the issue. You're absolutely right, because how could we make this statement that it should be abolished? Now, on the other hand, now this is interesting. I was just watching an interview with a woman that is running for representative of some kind. I can't remember what specific thing that she's running for, but she was interviewing with the church militant guy, and I can't remember his name either. People that are into Catholicism might know who I'm talking about. But Church Militant is a Catholic organization. They're sedevacantists, so on and so on. This lady was being talked about by Newsmax, I believe, and they were talking about how radical she was because this woman, they were criticizing her. Okay, she said not only, of course, abortion is evil and is murder, of course, right? That's a given. But she was like,
Right.
but this all comes from the acceptance of contraception,
Ooh,
and she
that's
lit
an interesting one.
she well this is a traditional Catholic perspective. At least it used to be. The abolition of contraception is historically very normal for Catholicism. Now she's making the abolition of contraception great again with her campaign and saying that if she gets elected, she will do everything in her power to ban contraception. Because what she points out is that the existence of contraception allows for the conduit of sexual deviancy, which leads to the opportunity for abortion in the first place. And if you abolish contraception, then what you have is a complete circumvention of the opportunity that leads to negligent pregnancy, because there can't be any such thing. Nobody can delude themselves into making any type of excuse. Well, the condom didn't work. There's no more any
Right.
excuse, right? And anyway, very interesting angle, very old school, so to speak. What's interesting
Well, I mean,
to point
yeah,
out,
it's almost biblical. I mean, it's the whole spilling of the seed and whatnot,
yeah, my
which we
point
have
is
biblical proof that
the
people died for.
the
But
conservative news stations are criticizing this woman for her stance, literally promoting the concept of abortion by default. And
well, and I don't know that you're old enough to remember, but when I was in grade school, the primary means of sexual education during that time frame was
yeah,
abstinence.
I'm old enough to remember that. I'm like, I'll
Okay.
be 37 in a couple of days.
I forget. You just look young.
I'll be 37 next Friday, not tomorrow, but the Friday after.
Nice. Well,
So
happy birthday.
thank you. Um, so I unfortunately I don't have enough bullet points and boom 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 to go here here people. I could call you pejoratives, no offense. I could be like, here, normie, right? I could call you a normie. That's not necessarily fair, okay? And I don't mean to go there necessarily, but I do say it to some degree to make sure that anybody that watches this recognizes that if you are trusting in a source for what you think you're getting the real news, okay? Let me make the assertion that real news is what you are physically and tangibly able to access. Hey, Steve died and his funeral is next Wednesday. That is news, right? Hey, I broke my finger. It hurts a lot. Pray for me. That is news. Everything you see on the TV that you think is news is part of a paradigm that adheres to the Hermetic principles that I laid out tonight. And if you don't see it, it's not, it's not because I didn't try to show you. It's not because I didn't try to show you. I wholeheartedly believe that these systems are part of this, back to the association with Ephesians 6:12, where our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, the authorities, against the powers of this world's darkness, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. The problem with this Bible verse, again, it starts with put on the full armor of God, which I did reference tonight, which you need to do. The problem with this Bible verse is that people are flippant about this Bible verse. They take it as a truthism and not an ever present reality. They don't take it reverently, they don't take it as a matter of life and death. And that's what I have. Listen, was I they? Am I still a little bit they? Probably. Okay. I personally want to grow up. Okay. I want to grow up and I want to take this verse as seriously as a human being can take this verse.
In the context of physical protection, I think is where a lot of people take it, is put on the armor of God. You're physically protected from all these things, right? As opposed to spiritually protected, which is more important.
That would be a grave error if you appropriate the spiritual realm and misapply this verse to, well, you're not, if you put on the full armor of God, then you won't be physically harmed. Evidence to the contrary. That's not what it's talking about. The point is, maybe there's a lot of people, maybe the vast majority, I don't know, don't even know how to interpret the connection between the spiritual realm and the physical realm.
Right. Well, who's the great interpreter in our belief system? Who's the great interpreter of all things Scripture?
Well, I would feel like the Holy Spirit would be the easy answer to that question.
Right, and it's an easy answer on purpose, because if you don't have the Holy Spirit, you don't have discernment, so you're blind, right? You're spiritually blind to the evils of the world around you. So we can fall into spiritual blindness by choosing this hermeticism or this left-right paradigm, right?
Mm-hmm.
So where we start to look, and I'm guilty of this just as much as anyone else. This is not a judgment, right? Where we start to believe one side, and then it's, our story is truth, their story is evil, and you get caught in this, and that's where you lead into that spiritual blindness. And that's when it's good to come back to the gospel and back to the word, right? The word of God, and do your repentance, and then seek that Holy Spirit for discernment in these matters.
Yep. So I want to cover this section of Ephesians as the outro for tonight's talk. This really does sum it up, and my prayer is that anyone that comes across this video, watches it, hears me talking about us talking about hermetic principles and how they apply to our day-to-day life, and how they are insidiously, cancerously, toxically incorporated into every aspect of our reality. That's quite the assertion, young man. Understand that to be a fact. Understand these words, the truth from God, not from me, not my assertions, but here's God's assertion, okay? And understand that there is a correlation, Lord willing, by the Holy Spirit. Here we go. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can make your stand against the devil's schemes. It's my assertion that the Hermetic principles and their incorporation into every esoteric teaching and school and fractalization is one of many aspects of his schemes. Not the only, but one of the base axiom ways of identifying his schemes, I'm asserting. Make up your own determination and see if you have other ways to discern the devil's schemes, and share them. Put them in the comments. If you have other ways besides the Hermetic principles to identify the devil's schemes, some type of base axiom generality that you can use and share with others to discern the devil's schemes, share it. It'd be great. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this world's darkness, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Therefore, take up the full armor of God, so that when the day of evil comes, you will be able to stand your ground, and having done everything, to stand. Stand firm then, with the belt of truth buckled around your waist, the breastplate of righteousness arrayed, and with your feet fitted with the readiness of the gospel of peace. In addition to all this, take up the shield of faith, with which you can extinguish all the flaming arrows of the evil one, and take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Pray in the Spirit at all times, with every kind of prayer and petition. To this end, stay alert with all perseverance in your prayers for all the saints. Pray also for me and me. Whenever I open my mouth, words may be given me so that I will boldly make known the mystery of the gospel, for which I am an ambassador in chains. Pray that I may proclaim it fearlessly as I should. And me too.
Amen.
Besides the author, me too.
True story.
So I can't help but feel like over the ages, this truly has been nonchalantly received as nice, happy words, but not taken seriously enough because of the mystery of the spiritual realm, because of the lack of tangibility of the spiritual realm. However, let me point out, belt of truth. Listen, he's not making up words that you can't relate to, right? The gospel of peace, the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God. Let me point out as clearly as I can that these things are part of our physical reality. Yes, they are for the purposes of the spiritual realm, but it's very important to recognize that he's giving you the physical realm tools and ideas that fight the spiritual battle, which should only help you understand how relevant and real this is, because there's a connection being drawn here from the physical to the spiritual. Don't take it lightly. Take it as seriously as you possibly can. And if you don't, these words right here, so that, because I'm gonna give you the negative, right? Because if you don't take up the full armor of God, when the day of evil comes, you will not be able to stand your ground. You will not be able to stand your ground because you won't have done everything to stand. That's the point I'd like to make. And there are so many people. It seems to me, it is my observation that there are so many people that take these verses, this verse specifically flippantly, and as a result, when the day of evil comes, whatever day that may be, okay, do you know what the day is? I don't necessarily know when or what that day even is. I don't need to know in order to make sure that I'm doing everything that I can to stand. So stand firm in this way, and it literally tells you how. Well, how do I put on the breastplate of righteousness? What is righteousness? What is the belt of truth? Well, probably rejecting the teachings of Hermeticism and acknowledging the law of non-contradiction and where truth comes from God. That would be my suggestion. Peabody Nick, never seen you before. Welcome and hello. We're wrapping up here, but feel free to check out the 2 hours prior to this, because that's about how long
Has
this
it
has
been
been
two
going.
hours?
Just about,
Always
yeah.
seems like minutes. Always seems like minutes.
Yeah. Any final thoughts and words on this topic?
I mean, I have nothing more to add other than you have to improve your spirituality every day. And one of the things that I've been doing probably for the last few months is every day I find an opportunity to dig into the gospel. I have a Bible in both of my vehicles, right? I also have one here in the house. So if I make the opportunity to read and pray and understand the gospel, it further arms me, right, for the future, whether it be in my lifetime or not.
Mm-hmm.
But as allegory, and I have friends that can no longer walk because they didn't even put on the full armor of protection on the battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
So even wishing to lighten yourself from one slight burden of, say, like a back plate that would be used to keep you from being shot in the back,
Mm-hmm.
can have dire consequences. So not putting on the full armor of God leaves you exposed to an attack that you would otherwise not be prepared for.
Yeah. Yeah. I would like to point out, just because a thought is occurring to me and I feel like it's good to mention. I understand that it says the helmet is salvation. I just want to reiterate that that's already a free gift from God, and that righteousness is mutually exclusive of that salvation. Yeah, that's demonstrated metaphorically in this section of scripture. But it's an important reminder that these two things are separate and that salvation is a free gift of God, and righteousness isn't for the purpose of salvation, but apparently it's a breastplate of protection. It's interesting. Now, there's obviously, if you read the New Testament and the Old Testament, you'll see other reasons why righteousness is important. You'll see other reasons that it benefits your life. So there's that. But understand that this is yet another opportunity to recognize the distinction between salvation and righteousness. And another way of phrasing righteousness is obedience to the law of God. And I just want to make it as clear as possible. The helmet is not the breastplate, and the breastplate is not the helmet. Just figured I'd throw that out there. Are they both important? Yeah. Yeah.
I would say they're both absolutely necessary.
Yeah, they absolutely are. They're just not the same thing. Just like the belt of truth or the gospel of peace, the shoes,
Yeah.
gospel of peace. So anyway, I just figured I'd throw that out there for anybody that was also pinging around in the brain. Man, my prayer is for the saints, that we get this. I want, it's my heart's desire to keep on shining light on these lies that surround us, this devil's schemes. Okay, I want to shine light on them so that folks don't be deceived. I don't want people to be deceived. If I can play any role in that exposure.
How does it go? Even the return of one sheep creates a chorus of praise in heaven, right, and rejoicing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's Old Testament stuff.
Yeah, it's Old Testament stuff, but still relevant, I think.
Absolutely, 100% relevant. It's always fun when you can reference the Old Testament for eternal truths. No big surprise to those that have read the whole Bible, but anyway, good stuff. Hey, thanks.
And here I was, a young lad, thinking that all that stuff didn't make any sense.
Yeah. Thanks for joining. Thanks for assisting. These are difficult topics, and I want to try and come alongside people to help make sense of these dark and evil concepts and how they relate to our daily life, and how Scripture can also shine light, even more than I could ever attempt to. Scripture shines light against the powers of this world's darkness. Be aware. Put on the full armor of God. And on that note, I'll just say good night. Until next time.
Good night.
Yeah.